So, John, let's first of all start off and tell me your full name and when you graduated, and just in one sentence tell me what you were as a veterinarian.
My name is John Gorham, and I graduated from Washington State College at that time, like the rest of these old guys, and in 1946.
So what did you do with a veterinary degree?
Well, they were short of anybody in the clinic, and I got a job in the clinic, and I was awestruck by Dr. McCoy as well. But I can remember one case came in. This horse was needy, and so, you know, I was just out of school. So when in doubt, you palpate. So I had my arm up this horse's rectum. Yeah, that's a better way to put it. And feeling around, and for me, it was just like an open window and throwing your arm out. I never felt anything. So, I was reaching around there, and McCoy walked by, and he gave me a dirty look, and he took out a piece of wood in the horse's mouth, and that's the reason the horse was needy.
So you were at the wrong end.
I was at the wrong end, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
then after that, all my cases were going to autopsy, and that's no way for a clinician. And so then I ended up in the pathology department with a guy that I thought a heck of a lot of, by the name of Don Cordy, who had just got back from Burma at that time. Let's see what else I can say. But my life was a series of interesting pieces of research. It was, we didn't have very much money, but for research, but things worked out. And
well, I know you're responsible for quite a few very important research findings. What would you say is your most significant contribution?
I suppose that the most significant contribution would be salmon poisoning. And to give you a bit about salmon poisoning, when Lewis and Clark got out here, the Indians told him that don't feed any raw fish to the dogs because they'll die. And that's the reason it was called salmon poisoning. And then the history goes on until the 30s, and when some work was done at Oregon State University with a better description of the disease. Well, now we jump ahead to about 1948, sometime in there, and when Cordy had arrived from Burma, and he says, why don't you look into this thing? And no one knows the cause of it, and it certainly isn't rotten fish. So why don't you check it out? And I said, oh, sure, that's fine. And I was an eager beaver guy. And so I went down to Oregon State University, or college at that time, and got a bunch of fish. And so we did an autopsy, and it took a long time to get the sections back. In fact, it took about 8 months.
Wow.
Well, see, at that time, there was only 2 people in the pathology department. That was Cordy and myself.
Uh-huh.
He had all the brains, and I had all the pizzazz to do something. So we got the sections back, and Cordy says, "Come over here. Look at these purple dots in the cells. What do you think they are?" I said, "Cordy, it beats the hell out of me." And so that was it wasn't very dramatic, but that was the discovery of the agent of salmon poisoning, which turned out to be a rickettsial disease, like somewhat like Rocky Mountain spotted fever, something like that. So that was the beginning of research on salmon poisoning, and then we did several other things after that. But but my life at Washington State University was revolved around research, and it was fun. It was really fun to have something turn out. Well, let's see. I should tell you about some more. Well, the mink in the Pacific Northwest were dying like flies, and I always listened to a mink farmer because they seem to know a lot, those guys. And this one farmer said, "I know what caused this disease," which was called yellow fat disease. I said, "What's that?" And he says, they lack vitamin E. And I didn't think that was right. But then I ran an experiment, and it was vitamin E, and so we got a lot of plaudits on account of that. But it was actually a mink farmer kind of tipped me off. Mm-hmm. And
I think that's interesting because one of the outcomes of that research has been the modification of cat food diets from that time now to include adequate amounts of vitamin E to prevent this from occurring in cats.
Yeah, I wrote a cat food company about that, adding vitamin E to cat food. Mm-hmm. And I got a letter back from their lawyer because their cat food was producing this I call the disease steatitis because of the inflammation of the fat, etc. And I got a letter back from the lawyer. It says, "If you ever mention this again, we will sue you." And so, hell, I was trying to tell them what to do with the cat food, and then they were going to sue me. So I said, "Well, okay." I had a lot of experiences like that.
Yeah.
One of them, let's see, what was another one? A mink farmer from Idaho called me up, Burley, Idaho. Called me up and said, I got some mink. I got a dozen mink, and they're all dead, of course, and I'm going to fly them over, and I want you to autopsy them. I said, "Okay, that's fine, bring them over." And then he got there, and he says, "The weather's sucking in. I want you to do autopsy of these mink out here at the airfield." And I said, "Well, geez, out here I don't have a knife." And he says, "Well, I got a jackknife." And I said, "God, I hate to do this out here." He says, "Well, the weather's sucking in over the Seven Devils." And he says, "I got to get back, and I got to know what's wrong with these mink." And this is young. I was young. And so I started opening these mink up, one after another. and I saw spots, white spots on the liver and on the lung and spleen, and now I'm getting a little bit suspicious. And I says, "What are you feeding?" He says, "Oh, I'm feeding wild jackrabbits." And I says, "Well, the mink have got tularemia, I've got tularemia, and you've got tularemia." And it was confirmed in the laboratory.